The Niners aren't doing that well. They're coming off their
Right.
second humiliating loss of the season. The first one was with Trey Lance, and when that one happened week 1, a lot of national media people totally wrote him off and said he was a bust and a bum, and they hated him. Now that Jimmy Garoppolo does pretty much the same thing, 10 points, a lot of mistakes, and the narrative this week all around the country is that Jimmy Garoppolo was rusty. Buy or sell the narrative that Jimmy Garoppolo was merely rusty, and he's going to get a lot better.
No, this is who Jimmy is. We've glorified him into, we've romanticized Jimmy Garoppolo into a player that he isn't. And all this, we're staring at Trey Lance and just picking apart Trey Lance to death. And nobody even mentioned that Trey Lance was there for a reason. He was there because Jimmy had shown flaws to the people, not to me, not to you, not to the fans, to the people who actually get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to make these evaluations. And they evaluated that they needed to upgrade from him. And suddenly Trey's issues and struggles could not be tolerated. And everybody, Cowherd is just an embarrassment. I hate to single him out, but my God, I have evidence. And today it's like, hey, I'm not going to make excuses. And then he does a video where, what did you count the excuses? It was like 150
at least
excuses.
140.
It was ridiculous.
One after another. It was impressive.
The standard that he held, that the two standards are startling. I think the best thing that I saw said about this 49er team is it is an excellent roster and a bad team. Blame who you want. You know what I mean? Yeah. Blame who you want. Point the finger at who you want. Who's that?
I think Eric Davis tweeted that.
Yeah, Eric Davis. Yeah, it was Eric Davis who tweeted that. He's like, blame who you want. Yeah, but it's a great roster, talented roster, and it's a bad team.
Hey, you got to be a genius to figure out where Eric Davis is pointing you on that one. He's pointing to the head coach.
Yes, he is.
Obviously the quarterback position is the biggest problem with this team, but who's responsible for this debacle? Tom Brady called up Kyle and was like, hey, I love what you're doing over there. I sure would. Gosh, Gio, golly, I'd love to play for you. And Kyle's like, it's Tom. What do we say? That's on you, Kyle. And now you're trying to make it work with Jimmy. And it's not going to work. Jimmy is not just rusty. Like, him walking out of the back of the end zone was not because he wasn't in training camp. It's because he's not good. The interception, he does that all the time, forces the ball over the middle. The fumbled snap, they're blaming that on the center. I don't know. I feel like what we saw from him is we've seen this game plenty of times, especially the last 12 months. The way the season ended, this felt like an extension of that.
I don't want to hear about rust. Come on. Rust. That's terrible. That's a weak excuse. The people who said you can't blame rain. Well, if you can't blame rain, you sure as fuck can't blame rust. That's for sure. The bottom line, I think Kittle said it. You turn you're -3 in turnovers. You have a safety. You go 1 for 10 on third down. It doesn't matter what else you got. They got a historic defense here. They got 3 levels of pretty badass defense. They held Russell Wilson to one of the worst games of his career in his backyard on national TV against a team that he dominates like nobody else, and they still couldn't get the W.
And when people romanticize Jimmy, I'm convinced they don't watch him play, because his issue of like not setting his feet and stepping into his throws is not a rust issue. He does that. He's been doing that for years. And that's why he can't throw down the field, doesn't throw down the field. His ball placement is off. His throws literally sink like sinkers. That's how he plays. That's not going to change. That's just who he is. So I want to say, I'm done with Jimmy. I've seen enough. And the fact that we got 14 more in the queue is disheartening. I would rather see Brock Purdy at this point. And what I would like to say is, if Brock Purdy is a better option than Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, at this point, how many other quarterbacks on the street are better options than Jimmy Garoppolo? I have a name right now. Cam Newton. Not a big Cam Newton fan, but if Kyle Shanahan wanted to run that Trey Lance offense, I'm thinking Cam could do that. I'm out on Jimmy Garoppolo. I think we've seen enough.
Well, I'll say this. There's, people scoff at the idea of Purdy. Oh, Purdy, you're like, it's Nick Mullins reincarnate, and we're all idiots. Brock Purdy is easily more accurate than Jimmy Garoppolo. And I've watched it. You've watched it. Everybody's watched it. If these guys switch jerseys in the middle of practice and there's literally people, oh, Purdy's small. Purdy's 6'1", 225. Jimmy's 6'2", 225.
Right. That's
so
true.
Is that 1 inch of height all the difference between a guy's got a shot and no shot? One guy had better. Brock Purdy was like, had a ridiculous, great college record. Jimmy was like 500 in college.
Also, Purdy's in football shape, and Jimmy, according to Jimmy, is not. So maybe Purdy. Look, I don't think again, I think it's a Kyle issue, not a quarterback issue. And I don't know if Brock Purdy would have won the game yesterday, but I think he might have scored more than 10 points.
You know what he wouldn't do is he's more accurate. There's no doubt. And Jimmy's my biggest disagreement or flaw that I've noticed in Jimmy's game, I guess if it is, he doesn't see the field. He's like a point guard that doesn't see the floor.
Yeah.
He's literally the point guard of the offense, and he doesn't see the floor.
Right.
He had Debo going on a wide open look, never even looked at him.
Yeah.
Purdy might have saw him.
Yeah.
Safeties don't need to worry about Jimmy throwing it over their head, and they know it. The book is out. I mean,
that's a huge
everybody's got a book.
Yeah, the book is out on Jimmy. There is no book on Purdy. I'd rather have a quarterback with no book on him. Jimmy had his best stretch when there was no book on him. It's truth.
Once you develop a game plan to beat somebody, I mean, people talk about it all the time. Hey, once the film circulates around the league, and I think what you saw this week was a defense that has talent. Surtain's big time. They've got some nice edge rushers, but it's nothing crazy great. But you saw a defense that was motivated and trying to compensate for their own offensive struggles. And they have a book on Jimmy Garoppolo, and they had an idea of how they wanted. They had a game plan, unlike Seattle the week before.
One last thing, Jimmy Garoppolo, I think they were saying like, well, we lost this game because of third down and the turnovers, mistakes. Well, hold on, let's stick with third down for a second. Jimmy Garoppolo on the season now, when he's the quarterback, the Niners are converting 26% of their third downs. When Trey Lance was the quarterback, they converted 47%. So this is a locker room that was like not so quietly whispering to reporters after the Seattle game when Trey Lance got injured for the season that, hey, that's a tough break, but we're better off with Jimmy. No, you're not. Look at this offense. You can't convert third downs. I mean, if it's third and more than 5, you're screwed. And really, if he has to throw on anything other than 1st and 10, they're in trouble. They are not built to pass if they got to pass. Only time they can pass is if the defense is absolutely sold out to stop the run on that play.